Should come through. Okay, that's on. Hey guys, how you doing? Good to see you again. I've got a very special guest with me today just to chat about rugby in general, where the game's at now, the future of the game's going, and also we're going to talk a bit about the European Cup quarterfinals that are coming up this weekend. So with me I have the guy from Squidge Rugby, Robbie Owen. How you doing, Robbie, mate?
Hey, all right. How are you? Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
good. Yeah. It's good to have you on, man. Good to have someone with quite a large base and with a good knowledge of rugby.
Well,
Seen
I don't know
enough.
about that.
I know, no, you know your stuff, man.
Oh,
I've seen
I'm
plenty of
good at
videos.
pretending. Yeah.
Aye, same here. Sometimes, but I mean, I'm a mixed bag. Sometimes I'm not the best at articulating when I want to make a point, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
like to think I know. I'm a rugby referee, so I like to think
Oh,
I
yeah.
know my stuff
Oh,
on the
cool.
laws at least. On the
Yeah.
laws at least.
Every video I
But
upload, I worry is the Warweather's going to realise I don't know what I'm talking about. So yeah,
well, that's part of YouTube, mate. 90% of
yeah.
them are like that.
That's that's what I'm
Whatever the
starting to
subject.
realise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever the subject. It's like anyone can have a voice. Anyone can have an opinion. It just
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I just want pick your brains a bit, see what you're thinking, where the game's at now, and where the game is going. Just in general, you can not cut it down or just talk about whatever you want there. But yeah, what are your thoughts on where rugby's at just now, going forward to the World Cup?
I think that's quite an interesting and very big question. Do you mean as in terms of where different teams are at, or as a sport, as a?
Just the sport in general. We can go into teams a wee bit later if you want. But...
I think it's again that's a big question. I think obviously it being a World Cup year, it's very interesting because all teams sort of build towards that standard, or the majority of teams build towards it being, the tier one nations, it being their big goal is to win it. And in nations, like Canada, I think like 80% of their revenue comes from World Cup years and comes from, and then they fund the other 3 years off World Cups. So obviously it's quite a big year, both sort of commercially on that end of all teams gearing towards that and building towards that as well, but also in terms of style of play and how the game is being approached. You're beginning to see teams in terms of in Test rugby dropping in the style that they want to be playing in a World Cup. So England have started defending differently, for instance, to how they were defending this time last year. And part of that was bringing a new coach. But yeah, so you're starting to see all of that moving in that general direction in terms of both the wider game outside of the pitch and then on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that definitely. It's yeah, I've not really got much other thing to say. That just especially with you look at Wales just now, the way they're playing, it's just a style. I mean, I just had a quick chat to you before we came on,
Yeah.
that it's a style that I don't particularly enjoy watching.
No.
I'd much rather like I mean, I'd have Sean Edwards as defence coach for Scotland. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Anyone.
I
Yeah.
mean, he's out of contract at the end of the year. I did put a video saying, like, Gregor, if you're watching, give him a call, see if you can get him on board. But I do prefer the style of rugby we play, even though it's not a guaranteed win. But I understand with Wales, it is just basically a case of building solid foundations, solid defence,
Yeah.
and making sure you're getting over the line. And when you get into the opponent's 22, making sure you're taking your chances. I think
Yeah.
you covered that very well in your video of how Wales won the Grand
Thank you.
Slam.
Yeah.
And England as well, as you said, with John Mitchell coming in, big impact. And I think Ireland, they had a bit of an off Six Nations, but I do think in the World Cup they're going to be dark horses to possibly win it, because I mean you have to remember as well, it was only last year they won the Grand Slam and beat New Zealand.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
they're not good. So people are writing them off and just saying they're complete shit. They're not quite. I wouldn't say that yet. To write them off, because I know. I mean, I again, you touched it in your video about Sexton, that which I think it's more when he's on the back foot and when he's playing behind a pack that are not giving him quick ball or good service. He has the tendency just to go completely to rat shit or I think Ireland have always had this problem under Schmidt as well, where they go more than 7 points behind. They seem to have a big problem chasing the game and they panic, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't quite know why that is. You look at right back his first game against Australia, they did exactly that. They panicked really when Australia scored twice. I think it was both times Hooper really early on. And then 2 weeks later, there is that famous game where they almost beat New Zealand, and it was the same team doing the same things, but just because they scored early in one and they conceded early in the other, it's ran, as you say, right there. It's an interesting point that's ran right through Schmidt's era. And again, it played against that first game of the Six Nations. Again, that kind of knocked them off was the England game, where England scored in the first minute, as is sort of Eddie Jones's thing. If they've got a plan to tackle the opposition, they do it right away, and that blew Ireland right off, and they sort of lost confidence there. And I think as you say, their slide is being exaggerated for the fact that they lost a game at home. Yeah. And then the other game that sort of comes up is the Italy one, because they struggled against what is a good Italian team who were playing in Rome, and Ireland still got the 4 tries, they still got the bonus point, and yet that's been made out to be a far worse performance than perhaps a lot of it was forced by Italy, and Italy were actually pretty good on the day. And yet Ireland didn't play at the top of their potential. But again, if you take into context, it's not as bad as, I don't think Ireland's slide at all is as bad as it is being made out to be.
No. I mean, even against France, even though they should have been like 50 points up by half time, they still did enough to get over the line in that game. Yeah. So I mean, even they're still when they're on top of games and getting in front of games, they're doing enough still to get the results and get over the line. It's just this. It seems to be the thing, as we were saying, that when they go behind or by a fairly significant margin, they just don't seem to know how to get back into the game. And I think it's especially apparent against teams like England and Wales with their defence, especially with Wales's rush defence. They've had that problem, most particularly when they've played each other in Cardiff over the past few years. They've really struggled to know how to break down the Welsh defence when they've been put under so much pressure. And England did almost basically the same in the opening game. They just sort of pushed right up really quickly and got the score early on. Ireland just didn't seem to have an answer or a way back at all, and England just squeezed the game out of them.
Even when they did sort of respond a bit, when you had the Keane-Healy try, they still, when they stepped behind again, that then led to them, throwing that silly pass that Slade intercepts and sort of blowing up a bit from there.
Yeah, I think that was what you touched on in your video as well, with the Sexton just panicking. Yeah, he did that as well. I remember a couple of years ago against Wales when it was like 15-9.
Yes,
and Wales
went for the chip that was not on at the end, and Jamie Roberts scored.
Yeah, that one.
And I think there's been that creeping back into his game in the way last year you thought he was very calm, very composed. He'd beaten those sort of anger issues from early in his career, and then this year they seem to seep back in. Like you saw him sort of screaming at players in the Italy game and a couple of times in the England game as well, and then obviously the Wales game it sort of came to a head and he was just shouting at anyone nearby. Even when it was him making the mistake, he was telling himself to piss off.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things I really don't like about him at all. I mean, I can't deny when he's on his game, he's a great player, of course. But when he gets into his, I don't like this in any rugby player when they just get into their strops. I'm okay with getting a bit frustrated when they're just like doing what he does sometimes, going temper tantrums. It's just like, I'm not for that.
And there were points in which he was throwing a bad pass or he was making a bad kick and he was blaming everyone around him. When actually, no, you've made a mistake there, mate. Just own up to it. Just put your own, acknowledge it. Yeah. If Johan Uge can do it, so can you.
yeah, true. And that's the thing, though. The mistakes he's making as well, were avoidable, especially like against Wales, where even if it's slow ball, it's his job as the 10, to sort of guide what's around him and say, okay, it's slow ball. Either I don't want it, just pick and drive and try and get over the gain line, or say to his back line, get a wee bit tighter. We're going to try and smash it up here, or
exactly,
whatever.
Yeah.
Or he's just going to step back a bit, pocket a bit, and kick it up in the air. But if he's just throwing passes like that and throwing tantrums, no, that's
I think that's sort of it. When he gets emotional, he stops thinking as clearly. As we've all done when we've got angry. Yeah. But just that's happening too easily. And someone like Dan Biggie used to do that when he was about 19, 20, and he's overcome that.
He still bloody does that.
Oh, yeah. I think he's now, when he has a tantrum, he keeps on his game. He still throws tantrums regularly.
Oh no, my
it
issue,
just
my
affected him as a player in the
my
way it does sex.
no,
Sorry, go on.
no, I was gonna say my issue with him is with referees, with
Oh
Dan
yeah, no,
Bigger,
yeah,
just the way he's. Especially last few years. I mean, I don't think he's been as bad this Six Nations, mainly because he's just come off the bench the last 20 minutes in most of the games. But in the last couple of years, it's just the way he's been, throwing tantrums as referee. I've seen him just try to run into players and just flop his arms up and go, oh, and it's just like, grow the fuck up, mate.
It's entirely fair. Yeah.
I mean, if I was refereeing, I just see him do that, I would just be like, I just give him one look and like, no, up you get, Nate. Need dealing with you. And thankfully, I've seen most refs do that as well. So
yeah, exactly. Like he doesn't get much out of it often, and I think that's maybe why he's calmed down a bit. He's stopped doing it as much. But yeah, that's an entirely fair. Much I love Dan Biggett, that's an entirely fair criticism of him. Yeah. And something that annoys me as well is just like just leave it down. It's fine. Just walk away. It was all right. It's the one last year against Ireland where he was too busy complaining to the referee, dropped the ball in the process, and Ireland scored a try from it. Mm-hmm. And he went, that you kind of deserve that. You kind of, it's kind of a fair outcome.
Yeah, he did. So that's like temper tantrums. I'm just totally against them. I mean, that's one of the things that's concerning me more about the professional game, where it's the more it's going professional, it's becoming more like football in that sense, where it's just like the result is everything. So players feel, not naturally, understandably, of course, they feel like more pressure on them. They get more, they know more. There's more at stake, not just in terms of the results, but in terms of money as well, potentially. And they just get that, and then that, seeps into frustration when things are not going well, and then naturally, as we can do as humans, you start blaming other people, or you start looking for ways to cheat more, and sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't, and
because it's a really weird thing to do as a job, wherein you spend a week working and going to training, as you would a 9 to 5, but then your entire week is dependent on how 80 minutes on Saturday goes, and like your entire week could have been worthless. Like all of the work you put in, every hour could just be wiped off and completely pointless if one moment like that goes against you. So you're in this really weird situation of that being your job, and you want to do the best job of it you can, and not waste your time, and yet it's all on that as well, which is this really weird thing about professional sport.
I mean, in terms of the results, I think you're absolutely correct. In terms of money, though, they still make a decent wage. But I mean, the bonuses and everything in terms of results, etc., that obviously still exists. I'm not 100% sure of the ins and outs, but that's the general consensus of how it works. Really, that's what I'm trying to say. But you wanted to talk any more about the Six Nations? What do you think of how Scotland have done, and where we're at, and what are our hopes for the World Cup?
I think Scotland, it's a really strange one. I think they were almost the hardest team to pin down, other than France, obviously, because they're France. But they're almost the hardest team to pin down in terms of how they're going to do. Because like Argentina, you can see are steadily improving and they're working towards something. Scotland, every time you think they're turning the corner, they seem to turn back around again. And including sometimes in the same game, in the England game, or even the Wales game as well, where it looked like, again, both of those first half wasn't going so well, and then suddenly they're right back in it. And then in both of those games, in the last 5 minutes or last couple of minutes, then they've conceded the score again, and they've kind of lost their composure. And I think it's interesting in as much as Gregor Towns, I think, is a very good coach. I do wonder whether he's quite there yet. Like he hasn't quite worked out how to. His Glasgow team won the Pro 14, Pro 12 as it was then rather, because they were playing the best rugby and they were scoring the most tries, and they almost scored with that, you score 6, we'll score 7 approach. And his Scotland team's trying to do that against teams who are just very, very good defensively, in the way club teams are never quite of the same intensity in terms of defence and are easy to break down. And I question whether he needed, because the SOU gave him the job because he was threatening to go to Harlequins and go overseas for a bit. I question whether he would have been a better coach for spending some time in a league where defence was more an issue than it is in the Pro 12.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I would agree with that. I mean, I've said it before in my other videos. I think we let Vern go too soon because
yeah,
I think he was building. He was in the middle of building something when he left,
yeah,
and appointing Gregor Townsend, I think, was just a kind of panic thing for the reasons you said. And I've made my thoughts clear in this and other things that I don't think going into England or France would have done him much harm at all. Because
no,
I do think it's a great possibility that after the World Cup he could have been lured back to Scotland.
yeah,
Because I think the temptation definitely would have been there because he is a proud, passionate Scotsman. So I mean that's where I think like it was.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying I don't want Gregor Townsend as the Scotland coach. I just think the timing was wrong for it.
yeah,
Exactly. But I think you know, because as I said, Vern was building something, and
yeah,
we were going forward. But I think like I don't want to say we've quite regressed because it's a Six Nations. I've said in previous videos I've done that we've regressed a bit, and some areas we have. But at the same time, when you've got a Six Nations where you've used 37 players. And majority of them enforced through injury.
exactly, yeah.
You can't really get like a cohesiveness. You can't get a proper gelling together. You can't get basically the same players together every week. So it's it's in taking all that into account, it is quite difficult to gauge how much progress or how little progress we've actually made.
Yeah, it's been very rare that Townsend's had a fully fit team to work with. You're sort of looking. It's almost just that there's that one autumn campaign where you almost beat New Zealand in the last minute.
Yeah, I was there,
and that's what was it like when Hogg made that break?
Oh, it was I was off my seat. I mean, I did have it in my mind though. Oh no, he's gonna get caught because I just saw like in the corner of my eye, Bowden Barrett just speeding up to him and getting quite close. And I just thought, but I mean, still, it was like I was out of my seat just going, oh come on, please, and it just got short. So that was.
I remember like I went home and watched it with my mum and my brother. And my mum was sort of walking in and out the room like doing something else, and she stopped in for those last 5 minutes and started screaming as well, despite having no investment in Scotland, etc. And just everyone losing it when Hogg made that break. And again, on the TV, you couldn't see Barrett coming into shot until quite late on. And I remember Andrew Cotter sort of watching it back, like rewinding and watching it again. And Andrew Cotter's voice breaking, like quite emotional as it's happening. Yeah. So that was a tangent, but that was an amazing moment. But yeah, that's sort of the only time Scotland have had a fully fit team, really, under Townsend, as far as I can think.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to remember. I think it was no, we didn't have Greg Laidlaw that game.
Okay.
But
okay.
Greg Laidlaw and Richie Gray weren't fit that day.
Richie Gray hasn't been fit for about 6 years.
No,
he's just perpetually injured.
Right, but he's playing for Toulouse again now. I think he's in the Toulouse team to play Racing this weekend. So and he's been playing for them. He played for them over the Six Nations, but for obvious reasons, as you stated, he can't stay fit for more than 2 minutes usually in the past 6 years. So I can understand why Gregor didn't pick him at all. But I think for the World Cup, as providing he stays fit, of course, he'll definitely be back in the team, no doubt. And Greg Laidlaw, I'm personally kind of done with, just because he's. I mean, I don't know if you spot this yourself. His service is just so slow sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially in the game against France, which I thought you covered pretty well in your video. Not so much him, but the game in general. But I mean, his service was so slow. It was just so easy for the French defence just to, eat it up. And it was the same against Wales when he came on. Like our service from the breakdown just slowed down so much, and it was easy for Wales just to defend against him and know what to expect. And that's my problem. If we're trying to play the game that we want to play, we do need someone like I don't think Ali Price is our long-term answer, but because I think he's still got plenty of flaws. I think someone like George Horn going forward could be, because I think he's not quite there yet, but I think he's getting there to be, and I think he'll be a long-term answer. But it needs someone like Price or Horn to play that fast game, and Laidlaw's just not I don't think he's the scrum half. He kicks his goals, but I don't think he does much else, in my opinion.
The one thing that Laidlaw does have, though, is that he's sort of the one man in that Scotland team who doesn't panic when it gets to late stages of the game. And when you've got, Russell doesn't necessarily panic, but he's almost always panicking. He's always doing just mad things. And the rest of that team have this habit of we shouldn't be winning this game, whereas Laidlaw's quite calm. So I almost feel like I get having him on the bench.
For the mental side of things, but
yeah.
still, he's when he actually is on the pitch. I mean, apart from against England when he came on, he did pretty well. But apart from that, he's just generally is just. And when it slows down just a little bit, you're going to take an extra 5 to 10 seconds before the ball he actually does something with it, and by that time it's just the defense is set, and it's usually either just chunking it up to a forward, and half the time the forward goes backwards when they get the ball, so
the
that
other
doesn't
thing
help.
I think that Price and Horn both give you is that they're really good support runners.
Oh yeah.
And so when Scotland are making breaks, they're on the shoulder, and you look at that. The one try he scored against France, you kept making breaks all game, and the only time you finished one was because Ali Price runs up on the shoulder, which Laidlaw doesn't do. Laidlaw, he hovers around and he waits for a goal to kick, and he's off, boiling the kettle, making sure everyone else is all right, asking nice questions. He's clearly. I think I like him as a captain. I think he's a good captain, but I don't know if he's not necessarily your best scrum half, which is that difficult point.
Yeah. But I think when John Barclay's fit again, he'll be our captain for the World Cup, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, because you talk about sport runs, George Horn is the same. He does that as well, very well. But I think
it's a shame.
Sorry.
It's a shame he was injured for the Six Nations, because it could have been a really good chance to just blood him in and just get him into that team.
Yeah.
In a way, I think we know what Ali Price can do, but other than that tour last year, which is a weird thing to sort of to use as an example because it was so up and down. We haven't quite seen George Horn play international rugby properly yet.
Yeah.
And I think he could really stand up ahead of the World Cup, and it's a shame he won't get much of a chance beforehand.
Well, he's got if he's fit for the 2 warm-up games beforehand, I think he should be in the squad at least. Whether he'll get ahead of Laidlaw or Price, I'm not sure yet, but I'm expecting him to be at least in the squad. And as I said, because I think he's got a potential to be almost the complete scrum half for us. I mean, I don't want to say. I mean, I was going to compare him to Conor Murray, but that's a bit no. I don't think he's quite going to be as good as Conor Murray in terms of his tactical awareness and his vision. But I think you could be someone close to him with a bit more pace, but possibly long term. But he's someone I really rate highly. So
same.
See, I've seen you don't rate his brother very much, so
I didn't mind. I quite liked Pete Horn until about last autumn.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't actually spot that until your video. I mean, I know I totally agree with you. It's horrendous.
Not the dummy, and it just pissed me off so much that I've sort of just almost lost all respect. I think I saw that and I instantly had this comparison with James Hook come into my head, who just dummies the ball every time he gets it. And I've got so angry of watching James Hook that I sort of just instantly just plummeted in terms of stock in my head. And there's moments in which he does things that are completely fine, and he's a good player. He's better than James Hook necessarily is nowadays.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, nowadays, I was going to say James Hook in his prime. He's not quite. No, he's not as good as James Hook in his prime.
But James Hook nowadays is just an entirely pointless rugby player. When I see him on the Ospreys team sheet, I think, why don't we just play with 14 and save on the laundry money? It's. But
James Hook better on the scrum 5 couch these days than he is on the
pitch. Pete Horn I think is a perfectly good player. I've developed almost like a weird back of the head vendetta against him just through the James Hook comparison I accidentally made.
There's a few Scottish guys who don't. Well, Scottish people don't rate him terribly highly. I'm so on him. I didn't think he played very well against France when he was moved to 10. So I've not exactly since then. I've kind of sort of not really been fussed about him. I mean, he does okay in what he does, but I don't really think he's a standout player for us going forward. I think, especially at 10 or 2 10s, Finn Russell and Adam Hastings have a lot more talent, a lot more. I mean, in terms of Hastings, a lot more potential. At least I still think he's got a bit of a way to go. And at 12, we've got Sam Johnson, who I think has stepped up really well, and we've got Alex Dunbar still to come back if he can be fit, and Duncan Taylor as well. Although if he'll ever be fit again, I don't know, because he's another one who can't stay fit for more than 2 games it
feels like a long time since I've last seen Duncan Taylor play.
I don't expect to see him at the World Cup at all, because apart from, to my knowledge, he's out for the rest of the season, and if he gets back to the World Cup, that'll be a miracle considering
Yeah.
the injury he has got. It's a ligament thing as far as I know, but last I read, he's not playing again this season, so I wouldn't be surprised
Okay.
to. I wouldn't expect to see him back in the World Cup team.
And there's now a lot of centres above him for Scotland. It's one area where they do have proper strength and depth.
Yeah. If we can keep people fit, that was our problem with Six Nations. We couldn't keep our best ones fit. So that's apart from Sam Johnson, who I think's kneeled on the 12 shirt, but apart from that,
absolutely, I agree. I think he's fantastic. I think you've then got, because I think you've now got maybe 4 or 5 players at proper international standard. And then you've got a few players like Nick Grigg, who I think is a very good club player, and is capable of standing up and being a decent international, even if I don't see him ever being like a world beater. But yeah, you've then got a few players of that, McDowell and so on, sort of floating around that quality.
Yeah. Okay. Good to get your thoughts on that. But we could talk a wee bit about Wales if you want, and then talk about probably the future of what you think about the World League. But obviously things going really well for you guys. Anything?
Yeah, I'm really alarmingly happy with how things are going. And I remember having this weird inkling after the Argentina tour last year, where just because they looked so composed, I remember having this weird thought of, I think we could win the Six Nations and really push for the World Cup, and sort of almost keeping it to myself. And then now I'm sort of feeling like, we're in a position in which we're second in the world going into a World Cup. There's a possibility that if New Zealand lose 2 games in the Rugby Championship, we could go into the World Cup top, which is bizarre and completely unearned. But
probably not going to happen, though, mate. I'll be honest.
No, I know, yeah, but it's a fun thing to look at.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, it's just the team is just so calm, and it's not the thing I'm just very used to Wales doing is exactly the Scotland thing of getting into a position with 5 minutes to go where it looks like they can or should win the game, and then panicking and giving me a last minute try, normally to Curtly Beale, and then weirdly they've stopped doing that, and they've started just again, it was that Argentina tour where we were, I think it was like 37 we won against Argentina, but we only scored I think 1 try, maybe 2 tries, because it was just we kept taking the points from everywhere, and I like that approach, and I like the fact that they are just completely clinical, and it's quite refreshing to see a team that isn't South Africa doing that as well, because as well South Africa and England are sort of the 2 teams that traditionally just take all the points on offer, and are just completely clinical about it, and it's been quite refreshing to see Wales play in a way that I've always hoped we might be able to.
It's a very interesting, like you mentioned that about taking the points regularly, because Wales, I think they won the Grand Slam, but they're the only team who didn't pick up a bonus point, bonus point in any of their games in the Six Nations, which is something. But you still won the thing, but which is that's a really
scored the same number of tries as Italy.
But that's true. But that's the thing, like sort of is your ability to be clinical, and that's where I think a lot with which is. It depending on how you look at it, can be the downside of the bonus point, because there have been. I mean, like us, for example, especially Scotland. I think Ireland have been guilty of this as well. England to an extent as well, and the others really. Just of when there are 3-point opportunities. Italy were really bad for this actually, just going for the corner constantly, instead of just keeping the points ticking. Because I mean, Italy, especially in that game against France, if they had just kept taking the 3 points when they had, I think they should have won that game, no doubt about that. I agree. Yeah. Even that's the thing. Even if you're not scoring tries, if you just keep the points, ticking over, and you keep. I mean, because Johnny Wilkinson was excellent this for England. Back in the day, sort of you build momentum, then teams start chasing, and they panic like Ireland did in the last game, and they just can't seem to find a way back into it. New Zealand as well. They were really really good at this when Dan Carter just early on in games, they just keep the points, keep the 3 points going, and then when the opposition were just mentally behind, or they just were chasing the game too much, they just tightened the screw and got the win. And I think that's what Wales have been very good at as well. They've seemed to have got right. So looking good for you going forward to the World Cup, but I'll be honest, I don't see Wales winning it.
I keep trying to tell myself that because every now and again I get slightly carried away and just have I'll be walking down the street and I have a daydream of Wales winning the World Cup and just begin to tear up a little bit. And I think, no, I've got to go to Tesco now. I don't want to have to face anyone just tears streaming down
I will
my face.
say though, the only reason why I don't see Wales winning it at the moment is just because of your record against New Zealand, really, and that's pretty much all the main reason I can think of.
Yeah. But because of the way the draw's fallen, assuming we both win our groups, well, if we can beat Australia, basically, we would avoid New Zealand until the final, and then it becomes one-off game, which I think that would be too far. I feel this Wales team is composed enough to win a World Cup final or beat New Zealand. I'm not sure they could do both in one game. And again, I'm saying that's a big push as well. That's a big ask. I feel like if they were to play at the top of their ability, and it feels ridiculous just saying all of that out loud as well. But yeah, I think they're playing really composedly. That's not a word, but and Gatland's really smartly blooded lots of players. So similar to Scotland, had to use 37 players this year. Wales last year, I think, used 33, 34.
Yeah,
that was because Gatland just dropped players in occasionally when he felt someone could do a job.
Well, but no, it was the only the Italy game you really made some significant changes, and apart from that, I think the only position you really messed around a wee bit in the first three games was the scrum half position.
Yeah,
and that was it really. I think the rest of your team was pretty much the same for the rest of the time. And I'd actually say if you can get Rhys Webb back, the scrum half berth, then because I think you'll be in with a really good chance, because that's still one area that you're still, I think, a bit weak on. But if you can get someone like a Rhys Webb back, then I wouldn't count you out at all. I mean, I don't count you out anyway, but
but I know what you mean.
You'd be in a better position.
It's the scrum half not quite nailed down, and the one other issue is if Alan Wynne-Jones or Jonathan Davis gets injured, then it's a problem. Like, we've got decent centres, but we haven't got anyone, and decent locks, but no one that's near the quality of those two.
Aye. I mean, and obviously I know about your love for Alan Wynne-Jones. Just that's awesome, man.
Always in front of me.
But yeah, I mean, I put this on a Welsh forum on Facebook saying comparing him to Martin Johnson, and I didn't get some favourable responses to it. I was trying to mean it like Martin Johnson the player, not Martin Johnson the pundit, because he's
but the coach,
but or the coach either. But but I think but also generally, I think he is a bit of a nicer version of Martin Johnson. I mean, I know he'll concede the odd penalty now and again, but for the most part, he is just he's not as much of a dirty bastard in a bad sense. I think he's a bit. I do think he's a bit of a dirty nuisance in a kind of slick sense. If you know what I'm trying to say.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I think there's definitely something there. And just because that Martin Johnson thing was it was just bullying his opposition to the point of just them feeling like an 8-year-old boy who was just being, it was that same thing. And when you played against Martin Johnson, you knew you'd played against Martin Johnson. And I think Alan Wynne's built that same thing, as I say, without necessarily being a nasty man, as Martin Johnson's capable of. I'm not saying necessarily is, because he's massive and he doesn't live that far from me. Within an hour's drive. But he's capable of being a very nasty man. But I think Alan Wynne he's got a skill set that Martin Johnson didn't have, in terms of he can pass and offload and so on. But that's the thing, a part of being a modern second row is you need that.
That's another thing to take into the equation as well. It's just how the game's changed now. Where basically the second row back then, you just had to do the dirty stuff and the grunty stuff up front, whereas now you have to be almost, as well as doing that as well, you have to be almost a complete rugby player.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but no, Alan Wynne does that. I think, I'd say he's the best second row in the world right now. Probably. I mean, along with Brodie Retallick, even though Brodie Retallick's not playing that well for the Chiefs at the minute, but come World Cup time, I no doubt he's going to come
of course
to his best again. But I think he's just a real. The thing is, he's just another fair comparison to make with him and Martin Johnson and Paul O'Connell as well, is just how he's got better with age.
Yeah.
It's like he's going to be 34 for the World Cup, and he's just seemed to he was already a brilliant player like 5-6 years ago, and he's just got better and better as he's got older. So.
And like he broke the Welsh cap record over the Six Nations, and he's continued to get better with pretty much each game. Like he's become almost more. You always felt like maybe every third game he'd have a brilliant standout performance back a few years ago, and now it's become just every single match.
Yeah,
and I think he's really stepped up again with the captaincy in the way that when he first got to the Ospreys as well. Like he just became the most consistent player, and he's become very similar for Wales. In a he's always been consistent. I'm not saying he was terrible in the other games, but he's just become
I get what you mean.
Every time. Yeah.
I mean, because the thing is, like, the thing that just makes me stand out more at him is just even if he's not turning the ball over or necessarily making a big tackle or whatever, he's just at every breakdown or everything, he's always just doing something. He's just always there. He's always either slowing the ball down or hitting a ruck or just like something that's just being an absolute bastard to the opposition.
Yeah,
like legally, but I mean, because I honestly wish Scotland had more players like that. I mean, players who are just absolute animals at every breakdown, even if they're not winning the ball back, just absolutely just pelting it, just like making it an absolute nightmare for the opposition, making the opposition giving them absolute headaches, going into the next phase of play or something like that. So
it's the thing Jim Telfer was saying, wasn't it, about Scotland not being hard enough? Yeah, so you've got Hamish Watson, and Johnny Gray works very hard, but that's not a hard pack. Not that that's necessarily something you need, but it's an edge, isn't it?
Something else. I mean, I don't think it's like us. You don't need all 8 forwards in your team to be exactly like that, but you need like a couple of them. Like England, I think actually England missed this with Maro Itoje. After he got injured, because he does that. I mean, I hate.
Just so annoying, isn't it?
I was going to say I hate Maro Itoje, but I can't deny as a rugby player, he just Serbi's just an absolute bastard to play against. You know how he just gives the opposition nightmares. I mean, even if he's getting yellow card or whatever, he's just absolutely on it. And that's where we have a pack of very good rugby players, but we don't have any serious absolute grunters who when they hit a ruck or when they're trying to slow a ball down, apart from Hamish Watson and John Barclay when he's fit, apart from those two, and Ryan Wilson does this sometimes as well, but he has a tendency to go missing too often.
Exactly, just like fading out of games completely. Like you make one big carry and then sort of just disappear for 20 minutes.
Yeah, or he makes a a sort of sneaky late tackle, and he just doesn't do that much else in a game. I mean, I'm not a big fan of his because he just, to me, he goes missing far too often. But like I said, apart from probably Barclay and Watson, there's a couple of players that I think are getting there, but they're not quite there yet. We lack that real sort of hard
edge,
draft edge that just it just gives nightmares for opponents. But I think we'll beat Japan, but I'm expecting to have a heart attack by the end of the game.
I don't blame you. I probably will as well.
If you remember the group game against Samoa at the last World Cup, where basically we managed to just scrape through, and the whole game I was just like, by the end of it, I needed someone to give me a bit of a recover. What's the phrase? Give it, just try and get my heart beating again, because I was almost dead by the end of it.
Full CPR,
CPR, that's
it. And I think especially, as I say, with it being Japan's home World Cup, and a lot of them knowing they'll never get another chance to play in front of a full packed crowd against a tier 1 nation that they could beat, it's pretty much like their biggest shot at that and at getting out the group stages. And by that point, you suspect, each of you will have won 2 games, probably lost to Ireland, depending on how that goes, if you're to look at it traditionally, I suppose. That then makes that a huge game, and it's the last game of the group stages, which is big. So I think that's going to be a great game to watch, and I'm so glad I'm not Scottish or Japanese going into it.
Well, you've got an easy one, just Fiji, Australia,
Georgia,
Georgia. But
And
yeah,
it's just knowing our history of Fiji and World Cups, never inspires. Well, I say that. No, they knocked us out once. We've beaten them in the last two World Cups, but still, you remember that one. You remember the one that hurts more.
I thought that was a great game. 07, you told me. Yeah, that was a great game. I
thought 2011 when we won 66-0. I thought that was a great game. Not as many people remember that one.
Because I think it got boring when Wales got to just thumping them completely. So from the neutral standpoint, anyway.
Yeah, no, I get that.
But 07, that was a good memory. So sorry, not sorry. But no, I think you should come through with Fiji okay. I don't think you should. I think the big thing with Wales is the Australia game because even though you beat them in the autumn, I think you still have a bit of a monkey in the back because you beat them, but you still had to rely on the late penalty. So it shows you can win, but can you keep doing that? I mean, in general, against this Australian team, I would expect Wales to win, given how two teams are set up and how form and things are with both nations at the minute, rugby-wise.
Yeah.
So, just because Australia generally come good at World Cups, so that will be a factor, I think, as well. But I would at the moment expect Wales to top the group, but against Australia, I don't think it'll be a walkover by any means.
No, definitely. I mean, it's touch wood, but I'm hoping that we'll win the group. I'm sort of expecting it, but as you say, I'm never confident against Australia. Even 10 minutes after the final whistle had gone in the autumn, I still felt like Australia were going to come back and win it. I still feel like they might win that game now. But yeah, I still feel like they're going to beat us in 2008 when we last beat them. I'm still worried they'll somehow come back and win that game 11 years on. So yeah, there's no confidence at all. But yeah, I feel like this Welsh team is good enough to still pull through that and to push past that sort of curse we had put on us.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you're in a winning habit, it's it always helps. And
exactly,
the state of Australian rugby generally right now isn't great at all. So that'll play a factor. That's played a factor in Australia for the past 4 years. So that's I think that'll help Wales as well. So I'll be in an interesting game. I think it'll be close, but I think Wales will just get it. And if you don't, potentially England in the quarterfinal.
It's the biggest motivator in winning that is it splits the draw, so that we've suddenly got the easiest possible draw if we win that. That we're looking at likely Argentina or France, then Ireland or South Africa. And you're thinking we've beaten both all those teams reasonably comfortably in the last year. Mm-hmm. So suddenly you're looking at almost expecting to reach a final from there. Whereas on the other end, if you end up with Australia again, New Zealand, and then potentially having to face one of Ireland or South Africa or whoever, that becomes a completely different prospect.
England, you mean quarters?
Oh, you're then facing England, Australia, New Zealand, which are almost the biggest problem teams. I
don't think against England. I don't think Wales should be too worried.
No, but
I mainly say this just because of I want to pick your brains to see what you think of this England team, because I just don't. I mean, it's not like what I was saying with Ireland, where I think they've just had a lapse, but they can come good again, and they've got the players and the coaches to do it. Whereas England, I just think there's still that mentality thing there, like they had under Lancaster at the last World Cup, where they just seem to mentally freeze or collapse when they get in front. I mean, I don't know if it's arrogance or just whatever it is, but it's just they just seem to like against Wales and Scotland, the Six Nations. They're just got themselves in front, and they just seem to just capitulate pretty much. So, what are your thoughts on England?
Yeah, I think there's the big point that's being bandied about, and I think there's a lot of truth in that, is this lack of leadership. That when you looked at that team in the second half of the Six Nations, the only real leadership figure in there was Owen Farrell, and to a degree, Ben Youngs and.
Sorry, I was just going to cut in and say with his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. But if your captain's constantly at risk of being sent off because he can't make a tackle with his arms, then you've got that to look at, and also I always worry about halfbacks as captains because they've got fly-offs have got so much else to be doing that you almost can't focus on the standard captaincy stuff. Especially as the main captain for a big game, and it's not just a stand-in for the odd game here or there because they're the most vocal leader. I think Farrell's there was a bit on one of the Lions tour, 2013 Lions tour, where Paul O'Connell during one of the team talks says, what a great job Farrell's been doing as a sort of extra leadership figure. And I think he's better as that, as an extra person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he needs, weirdly to say, Hartley is not their best hooker by some distance.
No, not at all.
But he is their best captaincy option. So it's this sort of weird,
is
it worth?
Yeah, that's the thing. No, sorry. No, I was just going to say, that's the thing, because Jamie George hasn't really done anything to deserve being dropped from the starting team at all. So, I mean, what do you do? What do you do there? Because, do you go back to, I think this is where Eddie might go. He might go back to what he did at the start of his reign, where he'd have Hartley on for 50 minutes and bring George on for the last half hour or so, which is a possibility. But I still don't think Dylan Hartley brings all that much. And I think the actual initial like with Eddie Jones's coaching, I think the initial honeymoon there has worn off. If you understand what I'm saying by that, because I think when they came in, it was off the back of the World Cup. Of course, they needed, and to be honest, as much as whether you like or loathe it, how Eddie Jones plays the media, that those kind of tactics at that time for England worked because they just needed someone to just say, right, okay, I'm gonna sort of get all the press attention on me. I'm gonna be a complete dick about it. That's what I do. And no one should be surprised. He's been fucking doing it for fucking years before. And it's
exactly.
Him.
But just like when he was in Japan, people weren't noticing.
Yeah, so it's
people were missing that.
Yeah. So he's basically going, okay, I'm going to shine the dangly object at the press, and I'm going to take them on myself, and you guys just focus on playing rugby. And of course, over time, that tactic wears a bit thin, and then you finally realise that in terms of actual game, in terms of actual style and the way they play, he's not changed all that much. The only exceptions I'd say is he's actually found a proper number 7 in Tom Curry now, and they've got a bit more of a bastardite about them in their forwards with likes of Kyle Sinclair, Atoja as well coming in. But apart from that, I don't actually see what he's done that much different to Lancaster's days. No,
I think the thing he's built though is that he sort of tapped into the inherent English arrogance for the better.
Well, it suits him down to the ground because that's who he
is. Yeah, exactly. They've brought in, because like Stuart Lancaster was this lovely like Lancashire bloke, who came in and was sort of very nice and encouraged them all to be nicer to their friends and to, build as a group community, which I like. But at the same time, you sort of go, no, you're the coach of the English rugby team. Like you should be encouraging them to be bastards. And Eddie Jones has kind of come in and done that.
Well, that's the thing. Like sorry, just like you'd like to think like nice guys get their rewards, but when you're on a rugby pitch and you're playing at the highest level, you need that. New Zealand had it for years with Richie McCaw, so like you need that kind of like just. You can be a nice guy off the pitch, but when you take onto the pitch, you need to be have the ruthless figures. You need to have players who are just like, right, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win this bloody match, and you're not going to take this away from me, kind of thing. And
it's like you look at the Scotland game the other week. They basically started pissing around after about 15 minutes. Like they were just sort of throwing silly backhand offloads, doing all of these sort of chip kicks and stuff that weren't on because they had this like, we've won this, we're England, we're going to pull through.
Exactly.
And it's in some ways it's their greatest strength because it's meant they've scored more tries than they would have, and I think, as I said, Eddie Jones really tapped into it. And a lot of teams wouldn't have won that Ireland game when Ireland came back into it. But because England have this just like belligerent arrogance about them, they managed to sort of just bludgeon their way through because they have this like it's not the same sort of calm self-belief in themselves that Wales have. It's just like, no, we are the best team in the world and we will kill you if you disagree. Whereas Wales are more like, I think we can do this, guys. And against it, but when they they didn't see Scotland coming back at all as a possibility.
No. I mean, I to be honest,
the opposition.
No one did. I didn't either. So no. But
it wasn't until about Graham's second try when he went, hold on.
Yeah, exactly. But that's where I think England will fall down is their mentality at the, because that was the thing in 2015 against Wales, is just they were a fair, I mean, it was only 7 points granted, but they were still a fair bit in front, and not enough in front to at least see the game out, and they let Wales back, switched off and let Wales back into it.
Thinking there was a moment in that game, I remember saying, like, watching a sort of whole big family around the TV, and I remember saying, when there's a point in which England had a penalty between the posts, and we had Dan Biggar, Hallam Amos, and Liam Williams were all down at once. We'd had Scott Williams stretchered off. We were already down to like our sixth team in a lot of positions. And I remember saying, I would bite your arm off for a losing bonus point here. Like, I would love us to come within 7. And then we somehow went on to win. Again, like, a lot of it being that thing of just, I think England are in the same mindset of just, we're going to walk this now, Whereas we've got a scrum half on the wing. They've got, a scrum half who's started one test playing for them. It was so bare bones that they almost felt they couldn't do it. And there's something in Eddie Jones saying after the game, yeah, well, this problem's been with us since before I took over. That was sort of like, oh yeah, you've been in charge for 3 years. You should have sorted this out by now. Yeah. But there is an element of that is true, even if, as I say, should have sorted this out by now. It's been literally your job for 3 years.
But that's the thing. When he first came in, he did fix it, because he brought that. I think he brought that freshness and that weight. But then those kind of things. It's like with football managers. They could, I don't know how much do you keep up with football. Yeah.
Not much here and there, but yeah.
All right, but you'll get the. I mean, I'm probably about the same. I mean, I don't watch that many football games, but I get the gist of it, like with how managers work there in terms of their hiring and firing. Like, they come in, they get a bit of a the players get a bit of a lift, they get a bit of a raising, and then over time it slides down. And I'm not saying England players are necessarily resting on their laurels entirely, but that's basically trying to say that that honeymoon period of Eddie Jones has worn off, and the players are basically used to him. They know what he's going to do with the press. They know how he operates on the training ground as well. So that, and then and then that kind of thing just seeps onto the pitch, and he has it.
The Japan team had a similar period though, where they dipped a bit between because he was there for just under 4 years. And they started off really well, and they beat Wales, and they sort of, looked like they were on this upward curve, and they were beating all the other Tier 2 nations. And then they had this slide in which suddenly they were losing convincingly to Georgia and to Fiji and so on. And then in that last World Cup year, over the summer, suddenly they started to play really nice rugby and ended up beating South Africa. He had the same, and so on.
Yeah, he had the same in Australia as well. He started well, won the Tri Nations there in his first year, and then the next year they next couple of years didn't do so well, and then they won the world. They went to the World Cup final. Yeah, and then he got them back up again. Then towards the end, it collapsed again. So he has that. But
peaks and troughs. Yeah.
But no, he always. I mean, I've noticed with all his coaching track record, he always initially gives teams a bit of a lift, and then after a wee while, they seem to just go. I don't want to say off a cliff, but they go down a bit. But I mean, that's not to say they can't come back up again, but again, I just think, as for reasons I've said, I just don't think they'll be the ones lifting the William Webb Ellis Trophy at all. So
no, but I think I can see them knocking someone you might expect to be a contender out. I can see them beating Ireland, a Wales, a New Zealand, or whoever. I think they've got it in them to beat anyone in the World Cup. I don't think they can necessarily do it. The 7 games in a row you need to in order to win a World Cup, but I think they can definitely, as we saw against Ireland, they can turn up and blow something out of the water for one game.
That's the biggest flaw, I think, is tournament rugby. That's the thing, like, because as we saw in the Six Nations, they can turn up against Ireland, but then last 20 minutes against you guys, they just fall asleep, and Wales take advantage. So that's and then against Scotland, they fell asleep after going 31-0 up. So that's where their flaws are, and I think if it was like a technical thing, I would think, okay, that's not something to hugely worry about. Just go on the training ground, work rigorously, and you can get that right. But the fact it's a mental thing, it just makes me really, really doubt them.
Yeah.
But
sort of 3 games between now and the World Cup, you sort of have, and they're essentially meaningless games. It's really hard to use those games for anything other than just building form, building players. And you can't in the same way, an autumn campaign, it's again 3-4 games. you can still use that as a means of turning a mindset around, as Wales did. You know, a lot of that winning the Six Nations came from the momentum they built in the autumn. You can't really do that because everyone knows the summer games don't really count before a World Cup. And every now and again, you know, look at 2011. Gatland said before that game against England in Cardiff, if we don't win this, there's no point in us going to the World Cup because we're not contenders at all. And you can do that sort of once, and Eddie Jones can come out and say some bullshit once. But that's sort of, it's not enough to turn that around, I think.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer for something that didn't need to be a long-winded answer. But yeah.
That's fine. I've been saying long-winded things all throughout our chats. but yeah, I want to know what your thoughts on this World League that's coming next year. From what I understand, I've looked into a bit. What I understand, the schedule is similar. That it's going to be a summer tour section of games and an autumn section of games. Then there's a final at the end of it. I mean, I'm skeptical in it because in terms of scheduling, I'm maybe a bit traditionalist. I like things as they are, even though I think there could be a bit less games in all competitions just for player welfare more than anything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm not really a fan, pretty much at all, because I think it's World Rugby trying to solve a problem that doesn't really exist. That, you know, in the way football brought it in because there are a lot of meaningless friendlies when it wasn't World Cup or Euros qualifying, and so they created this artificial league so that, you know, there'll be some bite to those, and that doesn't really happen in rugby. The autumn tests feel like big games, and the only thing, you know, there's an argument that the summer internationals aren't as big, but still, you look at, you know, Ireland and Australia last year. Those felt like big test matches, and they're trying to find a way to turn games that are already competitive into being more competitive, and they're using it as a means of saying, well, we're going to let more tier 2 nations in. But what they're doing really is they're giving one, maybe two tier 2 nations more games. So, you know, as the plan stands at the moment, Fiji and Japan would get more games against tier 1 nations, but for example, Georgia and the USA wouldn't get any for, you know, 2 years, which is kind of backwards.
Yeah, that's my problem with it as well. I mean, I personally think like that more of World Rugby's resources should be going into tier 2 nations where it can.
Yeah.
I understand there's business side of things, and there's always a corporate banker, something somewhere who's just wanting to get a big slice of the dough, as is how it all operates.
You look at the original plan as well, which had the USA in as a fixed team.
The original plan was bullshit. And
but it was like, I wonder why they want an annual game between the All Blacks and the USA. You know, because it's a foregone conclusion, but it will sell tickets. You know,
absolutely.
So it's like there were lots of things like that in the original plan, and they're slowly backtracking on them. And I hope, you know, like there was a thing in the week with England saying they're not going to agree to it because they don't want England to ever get relegated.
I know. I saw that as well. I was like, "Fuck off!"
Yeah, I know.
Because I mean, because that's the thing with the Six Nations. I actually would be for promotion relegation.
Yeah,
and that's where I'd say for a tier 2, I think more resources could go into a tier 2 European league. Where they're getting likes of Georgia, Romania, Germany, Spain, etc. You know, they put them in the league, get them playing each other, and then the Six Nations, they play each other. Whoever finishes bottom of the Six Nations and whoever finishes top of the tier 2 league play a playoff, and then go from there. I think that would be a good way of working things and growing the game as well. Yeah,
like you look at that sort of second tier, the Rugby European Championship. Georgia have done a Grand Slam, I think 3 of the last 4 years. So it sort of is like, I want to say that, but then, you know, also Italy beat them quite convincingly with players like Parise and Campagnaro missing in the autumn. So you sort of feel like, is the gulf still too big? Because you do need to. You sort of wonder, how do you get them up there though without them playing those teams regularly enough?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but the thing is, like, you know, England complained about it. I'm just thinking. I mean, I'm a Scotsman, so I'm expected to be possibly down there at some stage in the near future. So I mean, I'm just honestly thinking I'd be for it. If it gives us a kick up the arse, because there's lots of areas of our game that need improving off the field as well as on a course. That I'd be up if it gives the SRU a bit of a kick up the arse in some areas to. That's what I'd be up for it. But
I've seen Wales be shit enough that I know the 90s were not that long ago. It's not that long since Wales were abjectly terrible.
Well, we've been for the most.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say we've been for the most part abjectly terrible for nearly 20 years now. It's only recently we've actually started playing quite good. Because from like 2000 to 2015, just before the 2015 World Cup, we were absolutely mostly dog shit. We've just had so much shit to contend with in Scotland. So when you Welsh moan about the 90s, I just think you've won 4 Grand Slams. Pardon me.
Yeah.
And you've won 12 overall. So 90s were just a phase. That might be on the
horizon. Yeah. That might be. But and I suppose during that period though of that, Scotland had this habit of occasionally pulling off big wins against when they were terrible most of the time. Then occasionally just beat Australia, and you go, wait, what just happened?
They're just lucky
in the way.
Yeah, they're just lucky wins. They're just one-off kind of games, which is it's fine for that game, but it's overall if you want to be serious contenders for anything, it's not good enough at all.
Exactly,
so because that's where like Wales do just get it right, is even if they're not playing well, they are at the very least. I mean, the last 14 times they've won them, obviously, but up until then, even if they're not playing well, they're at very least at least kind of in game in most games they play. And they're with Scotland, it's like we're up and down.
Almost even better though if you look at that England game when they're not in the game.
Yeah. Well, that England game's just.
That was a complete anomaly. Like you almost can't read anything into it.
Well, we can good fighting spirit. Like it should,
absolutely.
It's against England, so and with a Scotsman as coach, we've generally always, I wouldn't say always, and mostly always at least performed against England, even if we've not always won, but we've because that was a big factor, I think. I mean, that's been the one benefit of Gregor replacing Vern, is that against England, both times we've played them under Gregor, that we've actually shown like we've played like a proper Scottish team against the English team. So
thrown everything out,
and got a win in the draw, which is draw at Twickenham, pretty considering how crap our record is at Twickenham is pretty good generally, but it would have been nice to win it, but it is done now, so But anything else on where you think the game's going, or
I feel like I stand by. I don't want the World League to happen. Just as I say, I think it's trying to solve a problem that isn't there. I think it devalues the World Cup as well. It'll either devalue the World Cup or it'll become completely meaningless, and no one will be competing for it. It'll become like the Anglo-Welsh Cup became. When they start moving it over, and it just became this completely pointless trophy that only 2 teams a year ever competed for, ever took seriously. I don't like what it would do. I don't like the proposal. And every time it comes up in conversation, I think, well, it could work. And the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, the more sternly against it I become.
It's most. I mean, even if the revised thing, it is still mostly a money thing because of how I think mainly just with how the Super Rugby is going in terms of their general attendances at games these days. So that's, I think, a big factor in it, and of course, as we've mentioned, the corporate busybodies who are everywhere. You can't get rid of them, sadly, but the
CVCs of the world, and the Sky trying to buy all rugby ever. If they did get a hold of it.
Oh God, don't get me started on that. I mean, I'm not paying bloody Sky. I'm not wanting to get into a big thing about that because that's another. That's another for another time, I think. But I think we've covered that. We're gonna. I think we're okay to do a quick preview for the European Cup quarterfinals.
Cool.
Start with the Edinburgh Munster game. How do you think that's going to go?
I think that's almost the most interesting of the lot of the quarterfinals, because I think Edinburgh they're quite similar teams because they're sort of hard nosed and they're very forward orientated, and it being in Edinburgh could be big, but Munster have that habit of really turning up for the Heineken Cup, as we can finally call it again. I have been calling it anyway for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, Munster have that habit of just turning up for those big games, and I like watching that. I like watching Munster turn up and just be bastards, and just have that habit of nicking it in the last minute. But again, John Barkley being back and having that back row of Watson, Barkley, and Mata is really quite exciting to watch. Like, it's so well balanced as well. I'm not quite sure which way that's going to go, because most of me says Munster, but also the fact that it's in Edinburgh and they're a team that has the ability to almost cancel out Munster, or Munster's biggest champs anyway, says that they've got a pretty decent shout. How do you see it going?
I think Edinburgh have got a very good chance. I think I really do. I think as you said, with the pack, especially the back row, if they can at the very least get parity with the Munster pack in all areas and give the back line a good platform to play from. I think I generally believe Edinburgh have a very good shout, because I think as well. And you talk about the forwards. Edinburgh do have a good pack. Munster as well, but I'd say I mean, maybe a bit biased here, but I think Edinburgh definitely have the backs as well to finish off tries. But
how many of them are fit though is the worry. If Kinghorn's still injured and so on.
Still got
Bennett's back, I suppose.
No, Bennett's fit. I don't know if Bennett will start though, because James Johnson's had a good season for.
Yeah.
So I think he's done enough to keep his place at 13, definitely. It'll at 12. I think Matt Scott's fit again. It'll probably be. Yeah. I think it'll most likely be Scott, but I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks with Chris Dean, because he's done well this season.
Okay.
Darcy Graham, of course. You've seen what he does, and I rate him as.
I like Darcy Graham a lot.
No, I was gonna say. I've said in a previous video, I think he's going to be our version of Shane Williams going forward. Don't know if he'll quite be as good as Shane. Let me just say that, but he might. I think he'll be our version of him, because I think he's just got such pace, such good feet as well, and he's got really something about
I always worry whenever, and it happens every winger, actually every player under about 5'8", under 6'4", I think, is compared to Shane in Wales, and I always thought there's a part of me that worries whenever Keelan Giles, Matthew Morgan, Harry Robinson, even, who won about 3 caps before having to retire. And all of them early on get compared to Shane. So I'm always like slightly trepidatious of bringing it up. I like Darcy Graham a lot, and he has that same ability to beat a man, and to just find little gaps that shouldn't exist. And he's a very good finisher. You look at the second try, I think, in particular against England, was really well taken.
Oh yeah. I know that even his first try, just his footwork to sort of dance around England players, and then just just score as he did. And he's also got. I think he's not afraid of going up against the big boys up front. You see, he'll hit a ruck when it's on, and he'll just be okay with carrying and just trying to smash into some big player as well when he can. But no, I rate him really highly. A fullback, if Kinghorn's still out, it's likely to be Dougie Fife, who's a player I'm never been a big fan of his, but I mean he has
especially as a fullback, but
well, even as a winger, I think he's a decent finisher, but
he's a solid winger, but not more.
Yeah, I agree with that. But for a fullback, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if likes of Carberry and likes of Murray will test him there, just to shift him around a bit. If Murray plays well again, because he hasn't played well since he's come back from injury. But so that'll be something. But I'm going to say I think Edinburgh will just sneak it by 3 to 7 points. I'm letting my heart rule my head there. So.
I've seen it happen enough times. My instinct is Munster will win it in the last 5 minutes, and it'll be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's what Munster do.
They still don't have. They don't have the likes of the O'Connells and
No,
the
O'Garas.
O'Garas anymore. I mean, Joey Carberry's a very good 10, but
Yeah.
in tight games, does he have it in him to really control things when
No.
it's that tight? I've not really seen. I mean, he's a very good 10.
Yeah.
I've just not seen that much of him in really tight games. Really
Yeah.
seriously get a grip of them,
And
like O'Gara did with Munster.
Definitely. No, and I think that's something weird. I think it's another sort of weakness of what Schmidt's done is he hasn't brought him on when the game's been tight. But for Munster this season, because he first started off those first maybe 4 or 5 games he played, he was playing like Joey Carberry from Leinster, who was sort of running everything and a very good attacking 10. And he's slowly begun to metamorphosize into this sort of O'Gara-ish figure just through being, I think, in Munster, if you're a fly-half, you begin to kick the ball more. And he's just started to, develop that I never saw him have before. I'm sure he had it in him, but we never got to see it. So I'm not quite sure he's 100% there, as you say. He's not O'Gara yet, but I think his kicking game's improved a lot this season.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely for Ireland. He's definitely Sexton's successor. You have to say. There was a couple of Irish folk I've spoken to actually think he could get ahead of Sexton for the World Cup, which I'm thinking no, I don't think that's going to happen.
And there's no way Schmidt's doing that as well. There's no way he's trusting him.
No, I mean he might. That's the thing though. In the knockout stages, if they are needing a change up, though, we might go for him. But or if it's Ireland are way ahead in the game, he'll bring him on. But no, he won't put anyone above Sexton.
No, it won't be his number one. No.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm saying Edinburgh, you're saying Munster, so
yeah,
see how that goes. Next one, this is a bit of a heart-wrenching one for me because I have a really horrible feeling about how this one's going to go. Saracens against Glasgow.
Yeah, I have a similar instinct. I love Glasgow to win that because I really like watching Glasgow. I really like Glasgow, but yeah, it's hard to see past the Saracens machine. And they stood up okay at home in the pool stage game.
Yeah. But
again, it was just that problem of not taking enough of their chances when they had them. And Saracens do that. They're just merciless. They're these. I think I've described them in a video before as just being like lethal rugby robots. Mm-hmm. They take the right option and they look completely joyless doing it. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that Owen Farrell has still remembered his wears the same boots as he wore against Scotland. And that he has that kind of performance in him again. Please, Owen, if you're listening. I just think I think Saracens are just so ruthless when they need to be, and they just even if they're having a bad game, they just know how to get over the line and. They're just. It pains me to say it. I just think it's going to be a really tough day for Glasgow. Not sure if Stuart Hogg's going to be back fit for it either. Which I don't know how much of a difference that would make because I don't even remember the quarter final a couple of years ago. Sarries Glasgow. Saracens' kicking game was just so good that they never gave Hogg the ball at all. So I think
you worry if it being his first game back from injury as well. Is he going to be 100% there?
Yeah. That's
if he's touch and go to make the game, it's almost not worth starting him.
Yeah. That's
much as I wanted. Yeah, same.
No, I'm totally agreeing with you. I mean, especially with the World Cup coming up. I mean, I don't want Hoggy rushed straight back into playing this just because it's a pretty big game for Glasgow. I think the World Cup's more important, but and I think Rory Jackson is a very able replacement at 15, but. He obviously hasn't got Hogg's attacking ability at all, but
who does? But
he's a decent enough solid enough player. But again, I just think Saracens will just have too much for him. So
it's depressing, but
I just like I said, I just hope Farrell drops a howler and we can get a bit of luck from there. But I just think Saracens are going to win it fairly comfortably. And so we're both in agreement there then.
Yeah, Saracens. Most it pains me to say it. But
No. Truth hurts sometimes. Next one, Leinster Ulster. What are your thoughts on this one?
Again, I I feel like this is going to be Leinster. I think it'll be interesting with Sexton having had the flim flam that he did against Wales and over the Six Nations. I presume he'll be playing. I should presume this will be his sort of first game back since then. It'll be interesting to see quite how they stand up, but I feel like regardless, Leinster have got enough to see them through. Just they're so professional about how they go about things. That Sexton is so important to that team that there may be some disruption, but I almost feel like this is the perfect way to bring him back, is to have him play a big game, with a lot on the line, but against a team they should beat. And I feel there may be a stuttering, but this will be like the Leinster machine cranking back into gear and curing what could have been, if they were up against the Saracens, say in the quarterfinal rather, you'd worry a bit more. But with Ireland having gone the Six Nations and that, just sort of the way it disrupts momentum slightly. But I feel like this will be Leinster.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think Leinster will get over the line. I think we talk about Sexton as well. I think with Leinster, he'll be playing behind a pack that will actually be giving him a platform, and a scrum half that will be giving him a quick enough ball for him to just have almost I don't want to quite say a field day, but have an actual ability, such an armchair ride kind of thing. Because I think Leinster's pack is better than Ulster's. But yeah, I think a home advantage for Leinster as well. I think it's going to play a big factor, and I think they just will have a bit too much for Ulster, and I think it'll be so that's it. And last one, Racing against Toulouse. For me, being a Scot, this is Finn against Richie.
Of course.
Yeah, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Again, I really like the fact we've got Toulouse back. I like the fact that Toulouse are not only good again, but they're good again playing the way Toulouse should play, playing that sort of flary, ridiculous rugby. That sometimes they do completely stupid things, but they get away with it. And they're against Finn Russell, who again, same sort of description. And actually that whole Racing team and that whole back line has some sort of barbarian quality to it. So I think that could be the most entertaining game of the lot. I feel with Racing being at home, they're probably favourites. But Toulouse are very capable of just turning up and just running off. And just, if any underdog is going to win by a big scoreline, it's going to be them.
Well, that's the thing. You say like Toulouse are slight underdogs. I don't know, because they played each other a few weeks ago during the Six Nations, and Toulouse beat Racing. I think it was fairly close game from what I remember. But there's a lot of points scored. So it'll be it will be. I think it will be similar again. A fair amount of points scored, but I think the difference will be up front. Who gives their backline the best platform of the two, or who can. I don't know how the scrums will go exactly, because they both seem. They're both
huge packs.
Both about. I think it'll be about 50-50. So but I think it will. I'm just predicting. I don't fully know. It will come down to just one moment of madness or one moment of genius from either side, and that will be enough. But
you've got Finn Russell against Uge, so you've got enough madness and in there for either teams for 30 with 30 plus people.
You've got Dupont and Ramos.
Aribaran. I think Mashinow's still injured, but there's a lot of very good players in both of those teams that I think that will be a really entertaining game to watch.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Who's going to win it?
I'm leaning Racing just because they're at home, but I can see Toulouse nicking it.
Yeah, I think I'm going for Finn over Richie here. I'll go for Racing. I think it'll be about. I think it'll be a close game, but I do think Racing will just get there. But it will be. I mean, it will be an exciting game to watch, no doubt.
Yeah.
But overall, who do you think is going to win the European Cup this year?
A few months ago, I would have said Leinster without a doubt, but now I think there's more shades of grey in there for Ireland having had the Six Nations go the way it is. I'm not quite sure what the lineup for the semis would be, but I feel Saracens have got a very good shot. I feel whichever those French teams wins has got a solid shot as well, but has got a solid shot of making a final. I think I don't know if they can necessarily pull through and win it. I'd love one of the Scottish teams to make the final, but I sort of can't see it. I feel like it'd be like when Edinburgh made the quarters a few years ago, and they managed to beat Ulster. Yeah, no, Toulouse.
Toulouse, yeah, it was Toulouse.
And then lost to Ulster in the semi. Yeah, it almost felt like that was their one big performance, and they threw everything into that one quarter final. And couldn't quite make it through to the semi to make it all the way to the final. And I sort of feel like if either of them get through and win at the weekend, then that'll be it. I sort of can't see one of them making the final, but I'd love them to.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling the same. I think, I think Edinburgh have the best chance of the two, but given the draw, but I think semi-finals will probably be as far as either the Scots teams can go. I mean, like I said, I mean, but you can't. I mean, I don't know fully for sure, but I'm hoping that I think at least Edinburgh have a very good chance. But I don't know. Like I said, I think it'll be Saracens or Leinster who will get it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think a lot of it will come down to just the defense and the forward pack with either of those teams. So. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
I'm largely in agreement.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about, or happy to?
I'm good. So I realise I've become shrouded in complete darkness over the course of the conversation. Sorry, I should have turned the light on or something, but we've lost all daylight.
Aye. Well, I can hear you perfectly fine, so that's. But yeah, you wanted. I mean, I was about to say like, oh, should I ask him, but taken away by your words. That was I got lost in them. But I think okay, if that's it. I think we'll wrap it up there.
Cool. Okay.
I've got go and have my dinner now. But it's good to have you on, buddy.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And like I said, if you want to do this again another time, just give us a shout and I'll keep tabs to your videos. Best of luck. And
all right, cheers. You too.
Yeah, thanks very much, man. Take care. All the best.
Cheers. You too. All right. See you.
Bye.